Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Got Kate and
Hi.
Andy here. It's been a while.
It has couple
Yeah.
weeks.
Had a little hiatus while we were doing
A
some
brief
stuff.
hiatus. A small hiccup, one
Hiatus.
could say.
Small hiccup. um, but coming with a hopefully timely topic, we want to talk a little bit about COVID
Yes.
and coronavirus from a little bit of kind of a legal FDA angle and things you may be seeing, things you may be hearing, what's going on with that. What we believe based on the research to show like what COVID's doing, how it's actually
Yep.
affecting the body.
Yep.
Theoretical things that potentially could help mitigate issues.
Which also ties into
There's tons
FDA,
of
and we'll talk about
disclaimers.
that
Well,
too.
I'll come with the FDA disclaimers in a bit. And then just what might be going on with long haul syndrome. Obviously, all of this is very, very new in the grand scheme of
Yep.
the world and science and research is very slow. If you've listened to some of the past talks with Andy and some of the things I've posted from other like Yale physicians, it can take how many years to get from
17.
research? 17. So we will not have any official FDA approved treatments for COVID for at least 17 years would be my guess. They might push it through faster. And I don't mean the vaccine. That's not treatment. That's preventive.
That's prevention.
But well, let's start with FDA. I know we've talked about it when it comes to supplements and how we were trying to clarify. It's not that the FDA doesn't approve of supplements so much as the FDA does not work in that realm of supplementation.
Bingo.
Except for usually retroactively if there's been a problem.
Yep, exactly. The FDA does not do anything in the realm of supplementation, vitamins, etc. They are literally food and medicinal drugs.
And that's why you'll see basically on any supplement or herbal thing that you pick up, that little asterisk, this has not been FDA approved. Because that's not really where that's not really what they're doing. They don't really
mess with it. That's not their bailiwick.
Right. So, and same thing, we talked in that a lot of times I'll have clients go, I talked to my doctor and they said they don't want me to take these supplements because they're not FDA approved. So again, it's that idea. Like, it's not that they're saying we disapprove of it. It's just saying that's not their job. That's not their role. That's not what they're dealing with.
It's not what we do. We deal with food and we deal with drugs.
Yeah. Now
that's why we're called the Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah. And they get pulled in. And so there is a little bit of a tie, but ultimately they kind of let the supplement industry be the wild, wild west. And that's why it is risky and it is important to do your research and it is important to work with it. They will come in kind of retroactively if there's enough complaints about stuff.
Yep.
But ultimately,
and that's where you'll see things coming off the shelves.
Yeah. So I kind of want to make that distinction. Like when they say the FDA does not approve, it's not saying there's proof that this doesn't work. It's saying that the FDA
that they disapprove.
Right. So I think that's an important distinction. So when it comes to things like really any disease, but of course this is coming up now in the past year with the coronavirus and everything, you will not find anyone who's technically legally allowed to say, I can prevent, cure, diagnose, or treat your coronavirus, your COVID. So anything we say must be taken with that grain of salt of we're still doing research. There is no proof. And legally, I cannot tell you that I can prevent, cure, treat, or do this. I'm not legally allowed to say I can do that for diabetes or heartburn either because of legalities. Getting people off their insulin, getting people off their heartburn, call it what you will. I'm not allowed to call that curing it. So that's just the rules of functional nutrition and the FDA. So I want to get that.
That's the way that it works. Only physicians are allowed to diagnose. Only physicians are allowed to treat. So, and they are the only ones who can announce that something is cured. So, and like a lot of this literally has to do with various organizations within the medical field kind of saying, well, I want this power. Well, if we give you this power, then you get that power. And, here we are as at the mercy of what they've decided.
Yeah. So a lot of the training I go through with regards to the science and the supplements and lifestyle and inflammation and all of that and using supplements therapeutically, there's always also this little training where they're constantly reminding us legally, I cannot say,
Yep.
hey, I'm going to give you this supplement. It's going to fix your heartburn. It's going to fix that. It's no, I am supporting your underlying
Correct.
system. I am supporting your adrenal health. I am supporting your GI. So when we talk about COVID, it's got to come with these, it's just, I think it's important to understand these umbrellas.
Broad brush strokes of, we can't treat it, we can't diagnose it, but there are things that, much like inflammation can be treated with an anti-inflammatory, if you are sore and achy, you take some water and ibuprofen after you work out,
Well, and I mean, if you think of the numerous people in like my Facebook group and everything that follow along and that you've been a part of that do the 7-day challenge,
yeah,
you're using an anti-inflammatory GI easing
protocol
food list to start. And at the end of that, I'll have people, oh, I lost weight, I'm no more bloat, I don't have heartburn, I have this, but I'm not allowed to have treated anything.
Right, exactly.
And that is all, I am supporting your natural functions.
Correct.
Your natural digestion, your natural nourishment. So when it comes to COVID, it's got all those same things. We cannot officially say, hey, this will work. And that's fair. We don't know for sure. This is too new. So what we want to do today is kind of say, this is the science of what's going on, what the physiology that's literally happening in the body. Yep. And therefore, theoretically, these might be different things that could work. Now, of course, it's different for everyone. Like when people are like, oh, take vitamin D for your immune system. Well, yes, if you're low in vitamin D, that is going to help. But if you're not,
if you're low in vitamin D and you can absorb vitamin D.
Right. So everything we talk about, it comes with these grains of salt. Like this could work for situations, but everything needs to be personalized. So it could help if this is your problem. But unfortunately, as we all are kind of learning with COVID, the underlying problem varies.
Very large.
There are so many different things going on.
It is a virus that presents with so many different systems involvements that it's unlike any other virus I have ever known in my academic career. It's fucking weird.
It is very weird. And I remember saying that early on. I was like, I don't mean this morbidly, but from a science standpoint, this is
weird.
Fascinating.
It's so fascinating. It's so fascinating.
And I know I've heard other like virologists and epidemiologists saying the same thing. Like it is so, we feel like, I don't want to say that to belittle the suffering that it's causing. And I hope people understand that this is not to discount any of the emotions, but from a scientific microbiology standpoint, it is
fascinating. This is unlike anything we've ever seen.
So, and I just thought, so one of the things we talked about, and you may want to skip ahead if you're just in for the juice, but we want to share our personal experiences.
Yes.
And stories. Obviously, there's been a lot of asymptomatic spread reported. There's a lot of variance to how it manifests. I mean, that was why it was so hard to find in the beginning. We thought shortness of breath and cough, like that was how shortness of breath, cough, and fever. And it wasn't until a little later, like, oh, hey, like GI issues, it's causing diarrhea and constipation. And hey, it's like the symptoms started growing and expanding to the point it's like, well, you could be having anything and we're going to say it's COVID. And so, and there was the thought that a lot of people had COVID, coronavirus, back in January 2020 or earlier. And I know, Andee, you thought you may be one of these. Do you want to tell your story here?
Yeah. So I had a recent checkup with my primary care physician. This is a couple weeks ago. And she said, there is no doubt in my mind that you were the first case of COVID that I saw. And I said, okay. I kind of thought that was the case because we couldn't nothing worked. None of the typical supportive care for, your cold flu symptoms made much of a difference at all. I had GI symptoms. I had the worst upper respiratory infection of my entire life. Like there was one night that I was like propped up on the couch because I couldn't sleep lying down. I was propped up on the couch and like made like pillow and blanket mountain around of me. And as I could feel that I was falling asleep due to low oxygen saturations because I couldn't breathe, I thought, well, either I'm going to wind up breathing all night or I'm going to die. Oh, well, because I was so tired. I was so
absolute apathy at that
like
point.
Exhaustion and just so apathetic. Not like, I mean, they threw everything. I mean, cough syrup with codeine, cough syrup without codeine, different kind of like inhalers and like nothing. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I wound up, my spleen was enlarged and we couldn't figure out why. My liver enzymes were goofy and we couldn't figure out why. And it was a solid month of, just scraping the bottom of the barrel. 2 weeks especially, but it was a solid month before I felt remotely human.
And I know around that same time, my sister was having,
my good friend, who
yes,
we had just gone on vacation with and shared a hotel room.
Yes, Andee and I are deciding, Julia, I love you, but we're gonna blame you.
We're gonna blame you. Sorry,
we're just gonna blame you because she.
And you know what? And bigger than that, we can blame the conference. We can blame the conference that we were all at in the hotel. It's fine. So Julie, you're a little off the hook.
Yeah. So she had experienced something. Now Julia and I tend to be healthy. We don't tend to get sick really. Have these strong immune systems, but she got plowed with something. And I remember her talking about the breath. Like she felt like her lungs were going to collapse and she couldn't take a deep enough breath. And she was like floored.
And it like hurt. Mm-hmm. Like it hurt. Like you were something was going to rupture if you tried.
Yeah. And around that same time then, like shortly after that, I got sick. Not anything quite as intense as what you two had, but very weird for me. Because again, I don't tend to get sick, but I felt floored, body achy, exhausted. Nose was running like crazy. Like just,
oh yeah, oh my God, like just here. Boxes of tissues a day.
Yeah. And the thing that I remember most, I wanted to sneeze all freaking day and I couldn't. It was the sneeze that wouldn't come. Like I'd be like, oh God, like, and I text my family, like, this is a special kind of torture. I don't understand what's going on. It won't sneeze day after day, like just this perpetual. So I'm grateful because that's not the worst symptom to have, but it was its own kind of torture. And I would eventually like sneeze like twice a day, maybe, and just 8 hours worth of built up sneeze. And my boyfriend would be like, what was that? I'm like, I sneezed. It was so good. It's the best.
It was so wonderful.
It was the best sneeze.
Yeah.
So to me, I didn't really think too much of this. Obviously, back in January, February, coronavirus
before it was a thing.
But just kind of the interesting dichotomy that there's different symptoms. It may have been around back then. And then despite that, I'm going to swear I just had it again recently. Again, mild, but I guess the point of this, to the people listening, it's not the same for everybody. It is very weird.
Yes.
And that comes into what we're going to talk about, like what it's doing in the body, because this last time around, again, boyfriend wasn't feeling good. And, he and I have been living together, and he just felt like beaten down. Like a day of a mild flu is what he said. And he started feeling better. But about 4 days later, he lost his taste. He lost his sense of taste. He could still smell spicy foods, but there was no flavor to it. So he went, got a test, did a rapid test. They said it was negative, but because of that lack of taste, gave him a second test to do like a more thorough test. It also came back negative. And I was already like, I'm doubting this, like either maybe this is a new strain, or, maybe you're just that 1 in a million who happens to get 2 false negatives. Cause I'm fairly convinced.
And here's because part of it is, if he's not been severely symptomatic enough from the way they do the testing, the PCR testing. If they don't amplify, if they don't get a big enough sample and they don't amplify that sample enough, it'll still come back negative. So if he was getting tested on even, we'll say day 5, it might not have had enough of detectable load that even with the amplification strategies, and there's no standard for the amplification strategy.
Because it's too new. Everything is still so new.
It's too new. It's just like, okay,
again,
well, we'll do it till
research.
We'll do it till we get a positive, or this arbitrary time period that we've kind of cut off as.
So can you explain what the cycles mean, what that means, the amplification cycles for
sure,
people?
Sure.
That's something that I hadn't understood for a while.
Yeah, when they get enough genetic material, they have to basically amplify it. So if you say, oh, good, we got one, and I'm making up numbers here, so bear with me. We got one piece. Okay, but in order to determine if we have a significant enough sample, we need to take this one piece and amplify it. So we need to like reproduce it and make more of 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 it until so like we think we have
enough. Having 2 little baby bunnies and 2 little having 4 and 4 having 8.
Exactly. So you're growing this. Mm-hmm. But the problem is if you need to reach a threshold of 100 to say that yes, there's enough virus in there. Well, it's going to take a lot of generations till you reach that threshold. Mm-hmm. And that threshold isn't a standard set number. So with PCR testing, they just amplify till they think they have enough to test. And in that, hoping that there's enough testable material in what they've amplified. So basically it's saying, okay, well, we're going to take a chunk of this haystack, chop it up, make more haystack out of this haystack, and hope that if we find the needle, if the needle was in there. But the needle still could be in the other haystack that you're not looking at because you only took a little piece.
Yeah. And things have improved a lot. I know when I did get my first COVID, well, I guess I've only been tested once, but when I did get tested once, because I wasn't sure if I'd been exposed, they said at that point, it was still fairly, I want to say this was like maybe May or June last summer, and they were still like, there's a 30% chance that you'll get an inaccurate read.
Correct.
So it's like that's 30% chance of a false negative.
And that's still pretty accurate. It's still about a 30 to
this one that he recently had, they said the rapid test had a 95% accuracy rate, and then the 24, this is what they say. I don't know. I wasn't there. But they said 95% accurate, and then the PCRM that they were sending in was going to be even more accurate, and that's why they did it, because of his lack of taste.
Well, and so here's the thing. PCRM is still a very accurate technology, but it still depends upon the initial amount that they can capture.
Right. But I don't want to belittle the tests. They've come a long way.
No, absolutely.
They're still very important.
Tests are great. They're important.
Yes.
They are directionally correct and useful for most people.
They're improving, but there's still little errors.
Yeah, it's like that bell-shaped curve that we talk about. It gets the vast majority of the middle, but maybe not so much of this.
Yeah. So they've come a long way.
Oh, and in an incredibly short period of time too. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Scientifically speaking,
they have powered through this in a good way.
This is like this is probably some of the most rapid scientific research we've ever seen.
Yeah. So we don't know if the test maybe missed it, or if he didn't actually have COVID and I'm just suspecting it, or there's these new strains that maybe aren't quite being caught. Like there are these mutations. So we're not sure. And the reason I would have kind of let it go is like, okay, fine, 2 negative tests. This is really strange. But then as he finished up his 10-day cycle, or like, roughly 10 days of symptomatic from the time he started feeling fatigued and kind of mild flu till the time he got his taste back, wrapped right into when I started having my own weird set of symptoms. That I normally would never have even chalked up to a virus, would not even thought of it. But I would just notice I'm a person who I tend to roll with stress pretty well. I stay positive. As my clients know, like I do a ton of talk about mindset and breath work and cortisol and, you know, self-care and sleep and all this stuff. And I tend to deal with stress pretty well because of it. And I've never been one prone to like anxiety attacks or panic attacks. And if I do, it's like a day that I just have to give myself. I just say like, close it off, deal with it, and I'm good the next day. So I was starting to have anxiety attacks. As best I could define them, I would start to get to work on stuff and get into what I call go mode, which I normally love. I'm kind of a list person. I'm type A. I like to research. I want to get my stuff done. I like to chart on my clients. I want to, you know, take care of this email, do the dishes, get and I feel very time efficient. It's kind of this flow, and I feel really good doing this normally. It was triggering anxiety. My heart would go like start beating harder. My heart rate would elevate to between like 90 and 105. Breathing got difficult, and I would buzz internally, like just this anxiety, like adrenaline tingling, horrible feeling that wouldn't go away till I just like sat down and did nothing, which of course added to the anxiety because now I'm getting behind on my projects. But I dealt with this, I would say, for a solid week before it started to fade. And again, in a vacuum, I would have chalked this up to, you know, I have had a lot of stress in the past couple years with, you know, everything between life and current events and my own personal things. That, okay, maybe it just finally caught up to me and I just had a week where I had to kind of crash. And I would have this. Until, first of all, thinking, all right, well, maybe he had it and gave something to me. And then as I'm interviewing long haulers and I'm reading forums and reading this research, I hear this is very common to have this internal vibration going on, which I do believe is probably related to adrenal glands. And then, my boyfriend's coworker recently got his vaccination, his first shot, his first dose, and said, I felt tired, my arm hurt, And then I just got this weird buzzy anxiety. And I was like,
and the funny thing is, Kate, everybody is using the same set of words. And from a phenomenological and qualitative research perspective, never mind quantitative research, which is where I live. I love, give me the quantitative, give me the nice clear-cut data. I am happiest here, but from a phenomenology and a qualitative research perspective, that is a phenomenon called saturation. When you start to hear the same thing used over and over, that term in qualitative phenomenological research, that right there is considered a phenomenon. That is considered little, like, a saturation thing. Like there are certain, and this is a thing for, it's a known phenomenon in research, in this type of research, is like, when you start to hear those same words in the same way, that is a red flag.
So yes, this internal buzzing or vibration, anxiety was kind of the closest thing I could link it to because of the other thing. So yes, our long storytelling to get to the point that there are so many ways this manifests, and there's probably a reason and a root cause.
And maybe that root cause is the fact that this is a virus that attacks so many different body systems.
So, and early on, we knew there was this concept of a cytokine storm. And not entirely sure what was going on, but essentially that is releasing cytokines. So our mediators, inflammatory agents, and all this stuff, inflammation and hyperactive immune system, just stuff I talk about all the time. From a GI issue, an IBS, an autoimmune, fibromyalgia kind of standpoint. So I want to share here a little, let me screen share real quick here. So this is my website, and I need to change this because I'm not FDA approved wording on here, I don't think. But I was doing research, but yeah, talking about how COVID-19 attacks, and it's inflammation and it's immune health. And much like the food sensitivities and the inflammatory issues we deal with in the Empowered Healing Program, it manifests differently depending on how those mediators and cytokines and interleukins and all those things kind of trigger within the body, where they kind of hit, which organ they target. And it seems that from in the early stages, we saw it was hitting the lungs, it was causing lung inflammation, and that leads to that shortness of breath and decreased oxygenation. We also learned it was hitting the GI. They learned, they started realizing that connection as well, the diarrhea, the gas, all of that kind of stuff. We're now theorizing that it's hitting the blood vessels and causing vasculitis.
Yep.
And that can lead to, again, reduced blood flow, increased pain, neural issues kind of things.
I mean, and they're finding heart damage. They're finding cardiovascular damage.
Kidneys,
in athletes. I mean, we're talking, like, there was a study that came out recently that when they looked at OSU athletes, something like 30% of the OSU athletes who had COVID had cardiovascular damage.
Because it's targeting the heart. So inflammatory agents can target anything. They cycle around through your blood and they can get into your cells, so they can hit anything. So I believe, that's my theory, is that that's a huge part of why it's so seemingly random.
Yeah.
Because it's the root cause is this virus creating inflammation. In my theory, this is my theory, that it's causing the inflammation, and again, that manifests in different ways. And like you were saying, your spleen and your liver seem to be targeted.
Oh, well, and my gut was totally.
Yeah. So unfortunately, yes, I can't say, oh, I for sure had COVID and I know, but just again, kind of talking to different people who have had it. I've had friends who've had it and their family members, from talking to people on Facebook about it. Yep. It still all kind of pulls into this.
It's what killed my grandmother.
COVID?
Yeah.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's obviously it's everywhere. But yeah, and that's part of it too. Where's the next picture I wanted to share? Stop that one. So there was also that tie between pre-existing conditions. So if you have pre-existing conditions, you're more prone to either
have those have those conditions exacerbated and manifest in those ways. In my grandmother's case, she had no lung or heart issues prior to COVID, spent months in a COVID nursing home, and ended up having death related to cardiac and lung complications. That, I mean, at the beginning of COVID, at 94 years old, she was still doing her exercise classes in her assisted living facility by herself with her cat.
Aww.
And yeah,
just hits without prejudice.
No, it doesn't. No. Yep, absolutely.
But there's that, again, that connection though. So this was from a research article looking at sort of transmission. Can you see it?
Yeah.
A little tiny. Let me zoom in a little.
It's a little small, but it's nice.
Yeah, it's a little blurry, but so it kind of talks about, viral factors kind of transmission, adaptation. So it came from probably some animals or something, comes into humans. All right. So now there's a ton of factors, and that's why we can't ever say there's one definite reason why person A got it, or one definite way everyone can resolve it. But when you look at some of these factors, so lifestyle, yes, life stage, they were saying typically older people, because you have a lifetime of stress and burden and inflammation built up on average. So the lifestyle, the people who had obesity were very prone towards it.
Yep.
There's a lot of inflammation related to obesity.
Yep.
Underlying diseases.
Much inflammation.
So people who are immunosuppressed, because you've already got an immune system that's kind of going haywire. Diabetes, that's a lot of inflammation. That's increased cortisol, increased blood sugar issues usually. And then of course, the heart disease and asthma, but these are all tied to kind of your internal health status. So there's at least a correlation. And then, your immune status can play into it. Your lifestyle is huge. The more toxic burden you have, the more risk you're putting yourself at with mass gatherings. And they talked about pharmaceutical inventions and then, of course, the non-pharmaceuticals. But the point that here, again, if this virus is causing inflammation, having a body that's already inflamed
is putting you behind,
makes it easier for an arsonist to catch fire when you've got debris everywhere, kind of idea. So again, these are what I'm putting together, my theories, what seem to be research supported, but not FDA approved.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, at this point, there's really, the vaccines are FDA approved, but there's no real FDA approved
treatment,
universal treatment. There are things that are FDA approved that are effective in helping treat from a symptomatology perspective, because that's the one other thing that we're dealing with is we're not treating the disease, we're treating the symptoms that the disease produces. So things like
what conventional medicine's doing anyway.
Which is usually what conventional medicine does in general. But, it's important to note that, like people have heard about like, oh, well, dexamethasone is, dexamethasone is great because it's a fucking hell of an anti-inflammatory. I mean, you want to feel good? You want to feel great? You take yourself a dose of dexamethasone and you're going to be like, whoo, I can lift cars. Maybe not truly lift cars, but like, dexamethasone is a wonderful shotgun blast of anti-inflammatory.
Steroids are anti-inflammatory and people feel a lot better on that. And again, they all have their place. And yes, dealing with your symptoms is 100% going to help with quality of life. But long term, if that's not enough to kind of get you back down to where you need to be, like I had a cortisone shot in my knee once. And sometimes that can be enough to be like, okay, it calmed it down. Now I can get back to life. But other times it's like, okay, it calmed it down for now. And then it came back. What are you going to do?
It came back.
Keep getting that shot.
Exactly.
So to me, that wasn't treating the problem with my knee.
And exactly. And it's one of those things that like, if the inflammation can be, here, it's that targeted thing. If doing the one targeted thing is enough, then cool, we did the one targeted thing and we're good. But when doing the targeted things doesn't work, and when it becomes a repeat, a lather, rinse, repeat cycle, then that's when it's a bigger deal and more problematic for sure.
Yeah. Now, of course, with all of this, I do believe that inflammation is a big part of it for some people, for many people. Again, it's not everybody, because it's a little different in everybody. So I have one last picture I wanted to share. This research was more recent. Actually, let me see if I can look up the date real quick. I have this article pulled up. So I'll do 2 screen shares real quick just so you can see the article I'm looking at. So deleterious outcomes in long hauler COVID-19, the effects of SARS-CoV-2 on the central nervous system and chronic. So this is from December. So a little more recent. So let me share this picture. So this is, oops, sorry. Go back to that one. Okay, so this is the kind of the pathways that they're looking at. I know it's kind of overwhelming.
Oh,
crazy.
You'll
love this one. Isn't this great?
Actually, I'm like, Kate, can you just send this to me afterwards so I can absorb it and look at it more? And but this is
the core here, like just briefly, it's kind of showing if you get it, then there's various ways you're symptomatic or you're asymptomatic. Maybe you've got the cytokine storm, you get the severe symptoms, maybe there's a fatal outcome, or maybe there's complete remission. But somehow through this filter, you come into this long hauler chronic COVID syndrome area, the red box. So now we're looking at etiology, meaning like, what is the medical reason behind it? We don't 100% know. And again, I don't think it's the same for everyone. So there is some just full on other factors. We don't know, more research needed, more studies. There's not a whole lot we think real possible from if cell death and degeneration is happening to the heart, the actual cells, the heart cells, if they're dying. So unfortunately, in that case, we currently don't know a whole lot. The best, in my opinion, not FDA approved, is do everything you can as soon as you can to try to nourish your body and rest and recover and all of that to minimize that would be my
parasympathetic nervous
plan.
System, rest and recover, rest and recover, rest and recover, all the supportive care you can.
Feed the neurons as much as you can with your vitamin E and your antioxidants and all that stuff. Feed your heart muscles with proper protein and CoQ10 and vitamin MK7. MK7 is that? It's one of the
MK7,
crazy names.
Versus MK Ultra, which is a whole other topic for another day.
No, MK7 and D3 and CoQ10 and organ meats and so it's kind of my theory, my non-FDA approved belief that would be kind of the target for that. But then we've got this whole group that is related to inflammation. And that is where I'm not allowed to say we can help you.
And I mean, if you're just stuck in the inflammation cycle, there is so much that you can do to target and reduce that inflammation systemically.
So, and that's what, again, that's the core of a lot of health, because inflammation is induced in the body by so many things that are related to lifestyle. So one night of bad sleep,
cancer is an inflammatory disease.
I mean, inflammation's at the root of heart disease, diabetes, pain issues, migraines, GI issues. That's not to say that's the only thing, but
it's such a broad-based root cause that if you have a brush fire, that's putting out the brush fire and clearing the smoke makes it easier to deal with the other things.
So theoretically, in this case, for people suffering from long haul, see what you can do to reduce inflammation. And that comes, like, the bare basics is starting that good lifestyle stuff. I know I say it all the time, like we consider it white noise, but it is so biologically, physiologically critical to your body resting and recovering. We cannot be in fight or flight all day long. We have to get into rest and recovery.
And that rest and recover. Oh my God, rest and recover is so important. And we don't do it. Even if we think that we're doing it, if you're, watching TV and playing around on your phone and doing something else, you're not in resting and recovering. If you are listening to quiet music and knitting, then maybe you're in rest and recover, because you're doing something repetitive and something non-cognitive.
You literally have to get that heart rate to change.
And you have to get that heart rate to change.
Stimulation coming in, sound stimulation, visual stimulation, all of that technically keeps the neurons triggering. So getting quality sleep, quantity sleep, doing some sort of deep breathing to pull you out of the parasympathetic nervous system. I'm sorry, out of the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic. Nourishing your body with the nutrients you need, drinking plenty of water, laughing, smiling, finding some way to laugh every day, smile all the time. Like it has, you have to feed your soul. I'll go through periods. I have to just stop watching the news because it stresses me out too much.
Oh God, I don't watch the news anymore. I haven't watched the news in years.
I like to be up to date, but I'm now.
If there's put it this way, if there is something that I truly need to know, I am sure my husband will tell me from a news perspective. Other than that, the news that I am seeking out is like, oh my God, are Harry and Meghan having a boy or a girl? Or, my news is like, ooh, did you see this new article that was about the gut microbiome? And like that to me is the news that I intake. My Google news feed is like, oh yeah, we don't bother her with current events because she's just not going to care.
Yeah, no, I've filtered my Facebook threads nicely to make sure it's clean and what I want it to be. But that's something else I always hound my clients on is I call it like an empowerment input. And I do believe it's very important that
Yeah.
we have to have something positive feeding us
Yep.
every day, whether
Yes.
that's something fun we like to listen to or something inspirational or motivating or something that's going to help us like, yes, I've got this, to be resilient.
Yeah.
Or learning, even if it's just learning to be empowered in your own health. So like daily, there's got to be empowered input into your body that helps uplift you, because negative conversations, negative work, negative thought process, oh, like, oh my, I'm so tired, I hate this, this sucks, I'm so stressed. Like, I acknowledge that that's a real thing, but it burdens you. It literally affects the neurological flow going on in your body. So whatever you can do to deal with that inflammation from a lifestyle point might be a start, but again, every person's different. That's where, you know, food sensitivities can come in, nutrient deficiencies can come in, GI issues can come in, and it is different for everyone. So I can't make a broad streak recommendation. There's a lot we can look at, a lot we can explore to see what's going on. But so yeah, that is the research I've been putting together. I did a video that I posted a little while back, like showing COVID patients before and afters, a long hauler. And the labs point to the same kind of stuff, inflammation and reduced ability to get oxygen into the body.
Yep, they do.
Which again, if you're not doing deep breathing and you're breathing shallowly, that's part of it. If there's inflammation in the lungs, that's going to limit that exchange of gases. If your iron levels drop for whatever reason, that can decrease your body's ability to transport oxygen. So a lot of different factors.
Yeah, tons.
But yeah, I'll send this to you.
Please.
Back up. There we go. So thoughts, questions. I don't know if this was a little bit shorter today, but that's okay.
You know, I think the thing is, you know, we've hit on so much of it, and the biggest thing is, you know, knowing that for the long haulers, there's things that you can do that can at least improve and, you know, quality of life, right? So that's always our number one. And trying to support
natural
and
balance.
And I think too, the other big takeaway is that, you know, there's been a lot of initial news media focus, and even since still then, you know, we think about like, oh, it must be respiratory because we wear masks. Well, that's how it's transmitted. But that doesn't mean that it's not only a respiratory disease. It is a vascular disease. It is an organ disease. It is a cardiovascular disease. It's a heart disease. It's a lung disease. It is so many things, because it's this weird virus like nothing we've ever seen scientifically. So the fact that it is wreaking havoc in all of these different organ systems is, you know, not to be unexpected. And, you know, I think the other thing too is that the importance of being vigilant with your protection measures, you know, especially with the new variant strains that are coming out. I actually was reading an article yesterday that in community spread in Oregon, they identified cases of the virus that have both the bad British mutation and the bad South African mutation. And it occurred naturally in someone who was not exposed to either of those. And so there's a mutant strain that has both bad mutations, you know. So I think it's one of those things that scientifically we're still learning so much. You know, but we can mitigate things to improve quality of life. And I think that's the important takeaway, is that there's things that you can do to reduce inflammation.
There's at least things that are worth trying.
Yeah.
You know, and see, you know, and yeah, my heart breaks like reading these people who've been struggling for a year. I mean, heck, even if it's just like a month or two, like that's miserable. But the longer it goes, because I know it is a very unique kind of exhausting to be in that kind of suffering for so long. And if you're starting to feel hopeless, because I know in general, a lot of people, we don't know what to do, and doctors don't know what to do. So I encourage, again, like we kind of always do, like, be empowered, keep trying, keep looking. There might be answers, some might be things to try. You know, reach out if you want to talk to me about looking into some personalization, or find a good like functional medicine practitioner who's versed in inflammation and inflammatory issues within the body. Because I mean, that's kind of what this research, that last little picture I just showed, is pointing to. Like, inflammation is one of the things we seem to have strong evidence for, and that is targetable.
Yeah, and that's that is probably the universal piece of evidence that we have, is that it is inflammatory, and that inflammation can be any number of places.
Yeah. So be cautious, because there are a lot of people trying to, you know, push stuff and say, oh, we promise this will help. And so to me, anyone who says, oh, we promise it'll work, be wary. I personally feel like the best I can do is, theoretically, it makes a lot of sense. It seems to match the science, but because everybody is so different and everybody is so intricate, and this is still so new in the grand scheme of viruses and illness and treatment methodologies, I don't know that we can know yet.
Yeah.
But, and I do think it'll be multifaceted. I don't think you can be like, oh, everyone needs vitamin C IV. Oh, everyone needs this. Like, I think it'll depend what's going on in your body. Yeah. What areas got damaged the most, what underlying health issues
where are
you
you, that's the thing.
Where are you weak? Are you not sleeping? Are you not absorbing vitamin B12 because you've got an MTHFR mutation? Are, you know, personalized.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really the biggest thing, is that, you know, this is one of those conditions that is going to require a very individualized approach to resolve.
Yeah, I think it'll be. But don't give up hope. I do believe there will be ways to help resolve symptoms and ease things and bring back quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so keep trying, keep learning, keep exploring, keep talking, find medical team to work with.
There's options. I mean, and
smiling.
Keep smiling. There's just,
find the good. Find those, what did you call them? The little twinkle lights when we had our depression talk? The little
yes, the twinkle lights.
Twinkle lights to smile about every day.
Yep. Find your twinkle lights.
You're not alone.
Nope. And know that this is something that is not a magic bullet fix necessarily. It's a multi-step, multi-system fix.
Multi-test to find out.
Multi-test, yeah.
We need puzzle pieces. I mean, that's just the truth of it. So.
Yeah. Well, gang.
With that, keep smiling. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Be healthy.
Be healthy. Be well. Drink your water.
Double mask.
Stay empowered. Strive to thrive.
Yes. Thrive. Try to thrive, guys.
Try to thrive. All right. Hugs. Virtual hugs to everyone who needs
virtual
them.
Hugs.
I would give you all real hugs. I'm a huggy person.
Yeah, me too.
So, hugs to all. And let us know what questions you have, and we will dive into more research.
Yep.
All right. Take care, guys. Good luck, and have a good one. Hey guys, quick little bonus clip here, or actually ironic follow-up, because pretty much within a few hours after Andee and I wrapped up recording our chat through COVID long haul, and especially the part about the FDA and everything, ironically, I was given the fact sheet for recipients and caregivers. So this is the little packet that's being given out to people as they're getting vaccinated. So this was just given to me after someone got their shot. Basically kind of collaborating the point, driving home the point we were trying to make about the FDA, where just because something is not FDA approved does not mean it's bad. Sometimes things just don't pass their test or don't get tested, and it's just saying, like, we haven't checked, we haven't certified. Now, that's not to say, again, with supplements that there can't be dangerous, risky supplements, but again, just because something is not FDA approved does not necessarily mean, avoid it like the plague, because right here, the Pfizer COVID vaccine, it says on here, is not FDA approved. I spilled some coconut aminos on it, sorry. But down here, you can read, talking about this vaccine, it is saying it is an unapproved vaccine that may prevent COVID-19. There is no FDA approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. So again, as of now, there's nothing FDA approved to prevent, but that doesn't mean there's not stuff out there that can help. I still plan to get my vaccine when I can, whether it's Pfizer or Moderna, maybe Johnson, I don't know, I haven't looked into that one too much yet. But either way, I do plan to get it, and I do encourage people to get it if it's, if there's not a contraindication. But again, that doesn't mean, just because the FDA doesn't approve it, doesn't mean it's bad and to avoid it. I don't plan to avoid this, but it is not approved. It is an unapproved vaccine. An unapproved vaccine that may prevent COVID-19. So it's still kind of the best thing we've got, the best thing to try at this point. Likewise, the things we talk about in these videos with inflammation and lifestyle, and getting a personalized plan, getting a personalized food sensitivity test if it seems inflammation-based, getting a personalized GI test if it seems GI-based, getting an electrolyte test or adrenal test if you're dealing with like POTS and dysautonomia, tachycardia, like lightheadedness and things. So whatever the symptom is, use that to gauge what the root cause might be. Still might be the best that we've got right now. So that's kind of just a little ironic bonus. Got this same day. So that's all. Strive to thrive, guys. Stay empowered. Keep searching. Keep hunting. I do believe there are answers out there. Stay playful. Stay fierce. Stay strong. Keep smiling. And I will talk to you all later.